I, 36F, got married to my husband, David, 29M, about 8 months ago. We were together for 2 years and we have a great relationship. Can't say the same about my mother-in-law, though. I can tell that she doesn't like me. Not that it makes any difference to me, but it just makes it very inconvenient for me when we are at any event where his family is also present. We also usually celebrate the holidays at his mother's place, so that's also really awkward for me, knowing that she doesn't like me and can't stand the sight of me. But if there's anybody who she dislikes more than me, it's got to be my son. Ben, my son, is 7 years old, and I had him with my first husband. My previous marriage, unfortunately, did not last for very long. Not because of any issues that I had with my husband, but more because of issues that my husband had with his health. I'm trying to put it lightly so that I don't end up crying while typing this out, but I lost my ex-husband, Jacob, to a heart attack. It was very sudden, nobody saw it coming, and it was a very difficult period of my life. Jacob and I were practically soulmates and I still miss him. We had met at the company that we first started working at. Both of us were new and that's how we bonded. I got married at 23, after dating him for almost 2 years, and at 27, I conceived Ben. At 29, I lost Jacob and my world turned upside down. Ben was 2 years old at the time, and after my husband passed on, I almost lost my will to go on with life, but it was Ben who gave me the strength to continue. So, in a way, I owe everything that I have to my son. I met David 4 years after I had lost Jacob, and for the first time, I felt like I was connecting with somebody on a level that I had initially connected only with Jacob. I was a little skeptical because I was a widow, and I had a son, and he was much younger than me and I really felt like not enough time had passed for me to move for it. But I was more worried about what people would have to say if I started dating somebody else, just 4 years after my husband had passed away. However, my friends and family told me that it was the right time for me to move on, and if I really liked him, then I shouldn't stop myself from acting on it. So when David asked me out, they were the ones who encouraged me to say yes, and I think it's been a great decision. David is a wonderful person and I love him so much. I know that he loves me and he respects the fact that I was married before. He respects Jacob and Ben and has always been really sweet and thoughtful about it. I just wish I could say the same thing about my mother-in-law since she is literally evil incarnate, and I can't believe somebody like David was born to her. Now before I say anything else, I just want you guys to know that David literally had absolutely no idea about what kind of a person his mother, Frida, is, and I never told him because of my personal reasons. Right from the first time that we met, she had started making weird comments about me, about how she believed that it was too soon for me to have a relationship with another man, literally just 4 years after my first husband had passed away. She also did not seem to approve of the fact that her son was in a relationship with somebody who was much older than him and also had a child. David was 26 at the time and I was 33, so it's not like we were kids, but she had her reservations. With time, it started getting more obvious to me that she did not like me and my son. At least I was old enough to handle the fact that she did not like me, but Ben was just a child, and she would treat him really badly whenever we visited her. She would speak to him in a really curt way and Ben would never be able to understand why he was being spoken to that way when he was only trying to get in her good books. So Ben would keep trying to win her over and she would just keep pushing him away. She hated him and I knew it. But I did not ever try to tell David about any of this because his mother suffered from a lot of diseases. Diabetes, arthritis, and hypertension were just a few of them. So David would visit her every weekend and would take care of her since he felt obliged. He had an older sister, Frankie, 35F, who had 2 kids around Ben's age, but she lived too far away to do that on a regular basis and she was also a single mother. Common sense, her husband had given up custody of the kids and left her alone after the second child with his affair partner, so she already had a lot of responsibilities. So it was his responsibility to make sure that his mother was taken care of. He also had hired a full-time nurse for her, but even then, her doctor had suggested that it would be good for her health to have time with her family on the weekends. Her husband had passed away a couple of years before I met David and her daughter lived too far away, so she did not have anybody else apart from him. I knew that he was not the kind of guy who would have just abandoned his mother and I did not want to put him in that position either, so I just kept my problems to myself. I instructed my son not to interact with her unless she initiated the interaction and left it at that. And I myself would never talk to her and she would never talk to me either, so I never had to bring it up with David. He had brought it up with me a couple of times, though, since he had picked up on the fact that I don't talk to Frida and she doesn't talk to me, and neither does Ben interact with her. But I had just told him that we had our personal issues and I didn't want to get into that because I did not want to ruin his relationship with his mother, and even though he had tried to pressure me into talking about it, I had stayed out of it because it just didn't seem worth the trouble since I knew how much he loved his mother and I had seen it firsthand, the way he would get mad at other people talking badly about his mom. I didn't want to find out how he would react if I did the same thing, so I just stayed quiet and I guess that was not right. As long as it was not causing any inconvenience to any of us, I thought it was the perfect arrangement at the time. But a few weeks ago, David and his sister, Frankie, decided to take us all on a much-needed vacation and Frida insisted on accompanying us. I didn't have an issue with it since she said that she would be paying for her own flight tickets and would be staying in a different room, but in the same hotel, and as long as I knew that I would not have to interact with her, I was fine with it. Unfortunately, Frankie was not able to accompany us because 2 days before the flight, she sprained her ankle and it was not recommended for her to travel anywhere in that state. However, since she had promised her children that they would be allowed to go, she sent them on with me and David. He took us to Miami and literally on the second day of our vacation, Frida decided that she was going to do the worst thing on the planet. I was asleep in my room and taking a nap in the afternoon, and so was David. We were literally knocked out because we had spent the entire morning on the beach and I guess, at some point, Frida had knocked on the door, but we hadn't been able to hear it. And Ben was the one who opened the door. Big mistake. Since then, Frida talked our son into accompanying her and promised him that she was going to get him ice cream. And since this was the first time that she was showing him so much affection, Ben couldn't help himself and he went along with her. Then we woke up and didn't see Ben in the room, and also noticed that Frida was not in her room. We went to the receptionist since Frankie's kids were also asleep and they didn't know where Ben was either, so we asked the receptionist if she had noticed them leaving, and she told us that Frida had indeed gone out with our son. We didn't think much of it because I assumed that maybe she was trying to make amends and took him out for something. I did not suspect her of anything because, at that point, I did not consider exactly how insane she was. But when she came back home alone, a couple of minutes later, I freaked out. That's when I understood just how deranged she was and that I had made a mistake by not speaking about her hatred towards us. I had underestimated her and I paid the price for it. Then she came back to the hotel that evening. She was on her own, and Ben was not with her, so I immediately started panicking and I asked her what she had done to our son. She looked a little offended, but I could sense that she knew exactly what was going on. She told me that they had been roaming around in the streets near the hotel, but Ben had left her side at some point and she had tried to look for him, but he just got lost in the crowd. I did not buy one word of it, and I decided to talk to the hotel authorities and alert the cops immediately. David was also really pissed off and he absolutely tore into his mother, while she tried to fight with him and said that it was not her fault. I was too worried about my son to care about any of that, and I thought that I would deal with her later. I am extremely thankful to the police department, and also the hotel authorities who brought back my son safe and sound, within half an hour. But those 30 minutes were probably the most difficult ones of my life and I will never be able to forget how I felt at the time. Once we had found him, he told us that Frida had left him at a shop nearby and told him to sit there and wait for her, but she never came back. The shopkeeper, thankfully, had been a nice guy and had given him some candy and had actually asked him a bunch of questions to find out what was going on. So he called the hotel authorities and alerted them about this missing child. And that's how they were able to find him. Frida is literally insane. Her plan had been to abandon my son, just because she hated him so much. After that incident, I did not see a point in trying to keep the peace and I told David exactly how she had been treating the two of us ever since we had become part of his life. And even though, earlier, I had believed that he would stand up against me and take his mother's side, he did not do that and he was furious with his mother. We got into a huge fight and we even pressed charges against her. But since we are not local to that area, it's going to be a bit of a problem for us to show up for court appearances. That's a separate issue, but after that, we moved to a different hotel where she would not be able to find us, a considerable distance away from the one that she was living in and she's still stuck there. Since then, we have not been in touch. She did not even pretend to be sorry for what she did and said that I was a woman of loose morals for getting married to David just a couple of years after my first husband had passed away and accused me of using him for his money and being with him just because he was young and attractive, and I couldn't find somebody like that for myself, now that I was ran through. I'm not making it up right now, these are the exact words that she had used for me in the hotel and I could tell that she had been waiting for an opportunity to say all this about me. She just wanted to humiliate me, that was it. But she had never considered that David might not stand with her when she was actually in the wrong. So he cut her off and now we are no longer on speaking terms with her. We would have also gone back home but David and I spoke about it and we thought that it was more important for the kids to have some fun because what happened was really traumatizing. We believed that instead of cutting the trip shorter, it would do them a lot more good to have a little more fun and try to forget about this incident. However, the day after the incident took place, and we communicated that to Frankie, she hopped onto the very next flight and took her kids back home. She told us that she appreciated what we had done and really liked the thought, but she could not believe that something like this had happened and just wanted her kids near her. And we understood what she meant, so we did not feel offended at all and she went back home with her kids. She also told us that she was going to ban Frida from ever seeing her children again because what she had done was just not okay and she was still in disbelief over it. She had passed on the message to Frida as well, through an email, and told her that if she ever showed up near her children again, then she would call the cops and get a restraining order against her. Now, it has been 2 weeks since we returned from the trip, but David's behavior has been all off. His mother is still in Miami and is in jail. The trial is supposed to begin in a couple of days. He has been very distant ever since we came back from the trip and yesterday, I finally decided to confront him, and he told me that he was upset. Not just because his mother was in trouble, but also because he felt like I did not trust him. He told me that he was upset that I had never told him about his mother's behavior with us, and he believed that if he had intervened in its early stages, things would have never turned out this way. I know that he didn't say it, and I know that he is kind of right in a way, but I also feel like he's trying to imply that if I had just told him how Frida had been acting with me and Ben, he would have been able to prevent this from happening, and it was kind of my fault that this was all happening. I don't know if that's what it is, but that's how it feels. We haven't spoken since our discussion yesterday, and I don't know what to say to him right now. Ida, for not telling my husband about how badly his mother was treating me and my son? Update 1. Hi, thank you so much for the response to my post. After reading the comments, I decided that maybe playing mind games with his mother was not the right move for me, especially since this was the child that I was putting at stake. Maybe I didn't know that his mother would turn out to be so unhinged, but even then, it was not fair for me to keep this a secret from him. So I decided to apologize to him, and I told him that I didn't see this coming. It was really foolish of me, and I really am sorry for not trusting him enough to bother him with this. He was really understanding about it and even apologized, since he felt like his reactions earlier, whenever anybody would have anything bad to say about his mother, might have put me off of that. But he clarified to me that he would just get mad at other family members when they would talk about his mother, like she was a huge burden, because, to him, she was not. This situation, obviously, was very different, and he was willing to admit that what his mother did was extremely messed up and that she deserved whatever punishment came her way. So I am glad that we talked things out and there is no weird air between us anymore. We are back to normal, and I really appreciate all the advice that people gave me here. Update 2. So, the trial has begun, and we are supposed to go back to Miami in a couple of days for our testimony. Thankfully, the court is going to be the expense of that, since this is the state versus Frida. We won't have to pay out of our own pockets this time. But then again, this is not a vacation that we are going on either. David and I are actually pretty nervous and don't know how to feel about any of this. On one hand, we are happy that justice is going to be served. I, especially, am really relieved that I don't have to deal with Frida ever again. But on the other hand, this is David's mother, who is getting into a lot of trouble, and even though she deserves it, both of us kind of feel uneasy about it. So I don't know, I guess we are just lucky that there are a lot of witnesses to testify against her, and we won't be the only people against her there. However, we definitely will be the only family. They might call Frankie as well, but I don't know if she's going to testify against her mother. Or have any sort of contact with her either. She has made it very clear that she doesn't want anything to do with Frida and has banned her from seeing her or her kids ever again. So I highly doubt that she will want anything to do with the situation right now. From what we know, Frida has been under house arrest so far. The people at the hotel did not want to let her stay there anymore, so she had to move out and stay with a friend of hers. I don't know how she got somebody to agree to let her live with them, given the circumstances, but I guess her friends are just as deranged as she is. No big surprise. Update 3. Hello, David and I landed in Miami 2 days ago, and today, we had to testify against Frida. We've left Ben at home with the sitter full time for now. It was kind of daunting, and I couldn't help but feel bad for her. However, as soon as I remembered what she had tried to do to Ben, all of those feelings just went away instantly. It was a relatively straightforward process. I just had to say my side of the story. And it matched with what everybody was saying as well, the people at the hotel and the guy at the shop who had watched over Ben. So, I really don't think that she has any way out of this. Not even the best of the best lawyers could save her and talk their way out of this. I'm sure that she will get jail time for what she did. She looked really distraught throughout the time that we were around her, and after everything was adjourned, she tried to approach us, but David and I looked the other way and decided to leave. We did not want to speak to her, and I honestly don't think that it would have been a good idea because I was in no mood to hear any of her stupid excuses. So we just walked away, and that was it. David has been pretty quiet since then, and I don't blame him. This must be a lot more difficult for him than it is for me. But he has been braving it all for me, and I am really proud of him. I am sure that it must not have been easy for him to stand up against his mother, but he still did it, all for my sake, and for Ben's. He chose to do the right thing rather than do the easy thing and try to come up with excuses for his mother's behavior, and I couldn't be proud of the fact that I married such a man. Maybe a lot of people will think that this is a very insignificant thing and that everybody would stand up for this. Not a big deal. I know how attached David was to his mom and how much he loved her, but even then, he chose to do what was right, and not a lot of people have the courage to do that. So I have to give him credit where it's due. It was really brave and righteous of him. Update 4. It has been a while since we testified, and today, the verdict was announced. Frida is going to jail for 1 year, but she might get out earlier if she behaves herself. And for her sake, I hope she does. We have also been thinking about filing a restraining order against her, but I think we will do that after she gets out of jail, because while she's in there, then there's no point in us doing that. So for now, she's going to have to stay away from us and everybody else, whether she likes it or not. It's going to be pretty sad for her since she's going to be held in Miami jail and not here, so nobody will get to visit her. And I did not have any intention of visiting her either, but now, even the people who did like her, are not going to be able to visit her. I just keep thinking about what exactly would have happened if that day, Ben did not come back, and that makes me feel like everything that's happening to her, she deserves all that and worse. I don't feel any pity for her anymore, and neither does David, from the looks of it. When we were told that she would be going to jail, he just shrugged it off and said that he hoped that this was a lesson for her. So I think that both of us will be just fine. Update 5. Hello. So it's been almost 7.5 months since Frida went to jail, and a couple of days ago, we received news that she would be let out for good behavior. It was not surprising since she had been charged with a third-degree felony, and we were surprised she even got any jail time at all. But anyway, David and I heard about that, and we knew that she was going to come back here, so we decided that we were going to file a restraining order that we had talked about. So no matter what, my family and I are going to be safe from her. And even if she does try to get in touch with us and come near us, we are going to be able to call the cops and have her taken away yet again. I'm sure she would not like to experience that once more. We have already spoken to a lawyer, and in a couple of days, we are going to file and start the process. We are still waiting for her to come back, so we can figure out what to do. As of now, we have spoken to her neighbors, and they have told us the house is still empty and nobody has come back yet. So until then, we are not going to do anything because she might not even come back here. Although, I don't really know what she's going to do up there in Miami, since she doesn't have any family there, and the only person that she has is a friend of hers. The person who had let her stay with her when she was under house arrest, and that's it, nobody else. But here, everybody knows about the little incident that took place, and why she was missing for the past few months, so to save face, she might turn up a lot later. We don't know what's going to happen, but we have to stay prepared, just in case. So we have spoken to the lawyer, and if she turns up, we will file for a restraining order. That's the plan as of now. We have also told Frankie about it, and she has decided to do the same. So far, she had also been putting it off since Frida was in jail, and she did not think that it was important for us to file a protective order when the person that we were filing it against was already in prison, so there was no point of it. We have kept in touch since after the vacation, and she has been receiving updates on everything. I guess, just like David, it's much easier for her to say that she doesn't care than to actually stop caring about her mother. However, both of them have enough compassion to realize that no matter what they feel towards their mother or feel, she's not a good person and she has to stay away from us. So both of them are putting their family first, and I think it's the right thing to do. Update 6. Okay, so it's been 2 weeks since she was let out of jail, and today, we finally received word from Frida's neighbors, and they told us that she was back. She came back really late at night yesterday, and today, they saw her roaming around in her garden. So naturally, the first thing that David and I did was to contact our lawyer and tell him that we had to start the process and file for a restraining order. It had been a really long time, so we had almost started to believe that she would probably not come back, but we were wrong. We also communicated this to Frankie and told her that she was back now, so she could also take the necessary measures. We are trying not to say her name a lot around the house because we don't want Ben to remember any of that. Just to give you guys an update on how he has been doing, we started therapy for him after we came back from the trip, and he's been doing well so far. It seems that he barely even remembers what happened with Frida, so that's a good thing. Usually, we want kids to remember important events, but this was not something that we would want him to have any memory of, honestly. But anyway, coming back to Frida, we spoke to our lawyer, and we were told that we have legitimate grounds for a protective order. Especially for Ben, since what she tried to do to him was really reckless, and she's already paid the price for that, but it doesn't hurt to take an extra precautionary measure. And that's what we are doing. We don't know about Frankie, though. We just hope that she succeeds in her endeavor as well, because as of now, I don't think Frida can be trusted around anybody. What she tried to do back then was unhinged, and I still have not forgiven her for it. Maybe she has paid the price of it according to the courts and jails and law, she is clear according to them. But in my eyes, she will never be forgiven. And that's just something that I'm sure of. For now, I'm just going to prioritize my family and make sure that they are doing all right. Especially David, since I know that this is also going to be pretty difficult for him. He has been quiet for the past few days. I know that this is tough on him, but he's putting on a brave face in everything that he does. It just makes me feel more grateful that I have this kind of a guy in my life. I think the partner that I could have asked for. I know everything will be fine.